Colton Herta is second in the points entering Portland, and he will be starting in 8th today. Behind Herta are Scott Dixon and Will Power, all within striking distance to take second place. Alex, Ben, Kobe, do you have confidence that Colton Herta will leave Portland second in the points? And if not, who do you predict will take that second place spot?
Well, I have struggled to have confidence in Colton Herta a lot of the time, but he has admittedly been very consistent this year. So I definitely think it's plausible he could remain second. I think he could finish second in the points at the end of the season. But when you have Scott Dixon right behind him, I just can't say, I mean, hey, Colton Herta is going to beat Scott Dixon all confidently. You know what I mean? So I'm not confident about it, but I definitely think it's possible Colton Herta could hang on to that second spot, not just after today, but the rest of the season. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, again, it's possible, but I want to remind everybody Colton Herta has still never had a podium on an oval. He almost had one at Gateway the last time out, ended up fading to fourth and then later fifth with the penalty. Kind of ironic that he was screaming on the radio about how dirty of a driver Joseph Newgarden is for holding up the field in the restart when he threw one of the worst blocks I've ever seen in recent IndyCar history. And he's thankful, he better be thankful there were only 5 cars in the lead lap to end that race. Otherwise, he would have dropped much further down the running order there. But to his credit, it has been very consistent this year. Like Alex mentioned, he is second in points, and I think that's a lot higher than a lot of people were expecting him to be, given his struggles over the last couple of years to remain consistent. Nobody's doubted Colton Herta's raw talent and raw pace. It's just been a matter of putting these finishes together. But looking at that again, we got the doubleheader in Milwaukee and then the season finale at Nashville. This is the last road course race of the year. I don't feel like that's something that plays to Colton Herta's favor. So is it possible? Sure. If Scott Dixon and Will Power have some troubles over these last couple of races, I think that would certainly go a long way in helping his cause. But looking at the remaining schedule and looking at who's behind him, multi-time champions and Indianapolis 500 winners as well, and Scott Dixon and Will Power, I think it's going to be tough to hold those two off.
Yeah, totally agree with you, Ben. Looking at the point standings right there, as you see to the side of the screen, behind Colton Herta in the points, Scott Dixon, Will Power, Scott McLaughlin. All three of those drivers have looked very strong this weekend. So I think if certain things fall into place, Colton Herta could leave Portland as low as 5th in the points, because Scott McLaughlin, I know we're going to talk about him in a little bit. I don't know what happened to him in qualifying after, starting the weekend looking extremely strong in FP1 and FP2. Something just didn't go right in qualifying. Now he's going to have to try to go through the field and make up a lot of ground. Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see if McLaughlin can continue to show that raw speed that he showed at the start of the weekend and try to get up towards the front. But yeah, it is kind of surprised that Colton Herta is currently second in points. I definitely didn't expect him to be second in points, with just a few races to go in the season. But it just goes to show, he's continuing to grow as a young race car driver. Like you said, Alex, been very consistent. And I do think he has potential to have, a strong result today. But like you say, we're just going to have to wait and see how it goes. And his performance at Toronto, was spectacular. And that's, performances like that, that's what we expect to see out of Colton Herta. Is just a matter of, are we going to be able to see that on a more regular basis instead of, like putting in the wall, over driving, as we've seen time and time again with him.
Now, this is the final road course race of the year, all ovals after today, the doubleheader at Milwaukee and the Nashville Superspeedway to close out the 2024 season. Alex, which drivers who may not be the strongest on the ovals need to make the most of Portland?
So Ben said it earlier. It's Colton Herta. Colton Herta needs to have a good race today. He is probably the weakest on the ovals of all the championship contenders, probably by a good amount. And if he can have a clean race today, he can probably surmount the potentially still finish second in points. And I find that earlier I said it's plausible after today, right? But the rest of the season, it's possible, but I'd say the chances are pretty slim when you have Will Power, Scott Dixon, McLaughlin, and Pato O'Ward behind you, who are all really good on the ovals. Of course, Joseph Newgarden's a bit further down. I think he could possibly gain a few spots still, but he's too far out for the championship. But man, Colton Herta, this race is his season. It's going to determine where he finishes the rest of the year, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, Herta is the obvious one, and we talked at length about that earlier in the show, so I won't repeat too much of what I said there, but Alex said it perfectly. I think this is really going to determine his chances of, obviously still a long shot championship fight, but trying to hold on to second in points with two proven champions, multi-time champions behind him. with 3 ovals to close up a year. He needs to have a good run today. The other driver that stands out to me is Marcus Armstrong. And I don't even know. I mean, he's not one that maybe comes to mind as being particularly bad at ovals. He's just inexperienced on ovals because he only ran the road and street courses his rookie year in 2023. This is his first year doing the full schedule. Obviously, he's already mathematically eliminated from the championship points down in 14th. So, with 3 ovals to finish out the year, you could say maybe he wants to have a good run today and give him some confidence heading into that final stretch of his season. But looking at who's up at the top of the standings, still with a slim chance of a championship, it's Colton Herta, no doubt.